It was the summer of going from grade 9 to high school. By this time, I had been smoking weed steadily for 2 years, tried various types of opiates and hallucinogens, and I even formed a borderline addiction with both prescription amphetamines and benzodiazepines. I had been taking 6 milligram lectopams all day, probably like 7 or 8 by that time, and was lucky enough to score some 50 milligram Demerol. I had 4 or 5, but I can't remember, it was 4 years ago. My girlfriend at the time had stolen a ring from another girl and wanted me to sell it for any type of drug. I left the remainder of my pills with my friend Joey and went to my usual weed shop to sell the ring when my dealer informed me of these pills she had. She said her boyfriend took 2 and felt like he was on acid, and her brother took 3 and was talking to people who weren't there. I was very interested and zealous as I was an intoxicated, self-destructive 14-year-old. I had no idea what I was getting into. She accepted the stolen ring and gave me an unlabeled bottle of 14 pills she said she obtained from a friend who stole them from her dad who has Parkinson's disease. She warned me not to take more than 3. I walked back up to where my friends and girlfriend were after taking 3 pills. I discovered that Joey had eaten the rest of my Demerol and Lectoprams, so I got mad and swallowed 4 more pills. My girlfriend took 3. She complained that I was greedy, and I was. After this, we all went to Erica's house. My girlfriend left, so I started hitting on Erica, and that's when it hit me. It felt so indescribably weird. It was as if nothing was real, and I began to forget who I and everybody around me was. I remember looking at the ceiling, and it started bubbling and getting mad at me, although it was pleasant. I remember seeing some very real hallucinations and feeling intensely energized and happy. From Erica's, I blacked out until I got home. My brother's friends found me in the woods. I was conscious upon their arrival, but collapsed in mid-discussion. They brought me home. I remember a little about coming home. It was a familiar place, but a new type of magical presence was animating it. At this point, I had forgotten I took the drug, and I went to my room to sit on my couch. I don't have a couch in my room. While I was sitting there, it was actually my stereo. I remember lighting up joint after cigarette after joint after cigarette and having a great old time talking to random strangers at a very social and easygoing party. I don't smoke cigarettes, I didn't have weed, and the only people who came in my room that night were my parents and brother telling me to shut the fuck up and go to bed. It took them a while to figure out that I was too fucked up not to be in a hospital. They drove me down, and apparently the whole way there, I thought we were riding some type of laser train, but I really don't recall anything of the sort. When I got there, I got really violent with the nurses, so they strapped me to the bed, and the first 24 hours after being admitted to intensive care, I can't remember anything at all. The next 2 days, I remember vividly, accompanied with memories of outrageous things like talking snakes calling me names. The serious delirium began to subside after about 4 days. I can't quite remember the order of trip experiences, or all of them, but I can tell you the ones that I remember most clearly. My family came to stay with me pretty much all through this because the doctors were uncertain if I was going to die or not. I saw my baby sister sit up in her cradle and shoot lasers into the air, and I got into a very heated argument with a cardboard smiley face son on the wall. At one point, all my family was standing around me asking me who they were, and all I knew was my father's name, but I couldn't remember that he was my father. My dad took me in a private room to videotape me so I could later witness my own behavior. This footage is the most embarrassing thing ever. It showed me in just a hospital gown smoking a joint that didn't exist. I passed it to the camera. Dad declined my offer. I then commenced picking imaginary bugs off of the wall, and I thought I found an escape door, so I ran full throttle into this wall and fell back, and my gown lifted up with my genitals exposed. The camera shuts off. The most intense and clear memory I have of this is when I thought my night nurse was someone I fought earlier on that school year but befriended afterwards, and I was telling him to undo my straps. I kept asking him and he kept declining, and I didn't know why, so I got really pissed off and started yelling incessantly. When I started coming down, it was the 4th day, and I realized where and who I was, and I felt like the biggest idiot in the world. I didn't remember anything at first, but as time went on and my family told me stories, some of it came back. I did some research and found out that scopolamine is used in Parkinson's disease treatment, a drug found in common plants most abundant in the seeds of datura stramonium and totally legal, and at relatively low doses is a powerful psychedelic. The doctors did identify the Valium and morphine-like substances in my blood, demis and lex, but could not identify the third chemical, probably because it isn't commonly known for abuse and they didn't test for it. This is 4 years later, and I'm after trying dilaudid, multiple potencies of acid, all the aforementioned drugs plus legal ones like nitrous oxide, morning glory, and ethyl ether extract, and I've even since overcome a full-blown crack addiction lasting months, and I've never felt anything more powerful than this drug. This is strictly for people who can handle losing total contact with earthly boundaries and personal identity. This entire experience heightened my awareness of human frailty, and since then, every hallucinogenic trip I've embarked on has been dreadfully frightening, except with mushrooms. I now stick with depressants and weed. I think I'm going to make a concentrated tonic of datura seeds, ending up with the potency of half a teaspoon of seeds per 1 milliliter of tonic, and leave it kicking around the house for curious trip seekers, $5 for a 1 milliliter drop. I would never take this drug again, and if you're going to, I would recommend you use the datura plant material and not the refined medical stuff. Don't overdo it, in fact, underdo it at first. Have 2 or 3 of your friends stay sober or just smoke weed, and be ready to watch you trip for at least 24 hours. This is an activity that probably takes a whole weekend, and don't worry, the trip sitters will have loads of fun with their fucked up friend. For datura trip sitters, it is wise never to start an argument with the subject. Go with whatever he or she says, i.e. Dad had to pretend he was my buddy Tim at one point. If they are engaging in a hazardous activity, distract them from it, then remove it. If they have a knife, don't just try to take it. Tell them the fairy gods will trade a magic potion for it or something. Trust me, they'll most likely buy it. Then give them water. Give them lots of water, as much as they want. People on datura don't need things like cigarettes, liquor, or weed, because whenever they want it, they just tend to imagine it, and it works. Don't take anything they say to heart. They are not themselves. I.e., I told my stepmom, Dad's wife, that I was going to fuck her in the bathroom. And last of all, have fun. Try to keep the entire thing in a peaceful, happy ambiance. What a crazy fucking story. Also, I didn't realize they prescribe scopolamine to people with Parkinson's. That's crazy you could take it as a tablet. Anyways, if you made it this far, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe as it helps a lot. Also, comment down below what drug you want me to read next, or you can comment whatever you want. It really doesn't matter to me. Anyways, I hope you have a good day, and stay safe out there.